What if you walked into a routine doctor's appointment and left with your entire life flipped upside down? The clinic was unusually quiet that Thursday afternoon. The kind of quiet that made every sound, every footstep, every rustling paper, feel louder than it should. The receptionist looked up briefly, then back down at her keyboard, barely noticing the girl who stepped inside. Emma Carter, 14, clutched the straps of her backpack like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. She was small for her age, with dark eyes that flicked around the room as if scanning for something no one else could see. Her mother, Dana, walked behind her, trying to look calm, but the worry was written all over her face. Dr. Jennifer Hawkins had been practicing family medicine in the town of Silver Creek for over 20 years. She had seen everything from sprained ankles to broken homes. But something about the girl that walked into her exam room that day made her pause. Emma sat down on the exam table without a word. Her fingers fidgeted with a fraying thread on the sleeve of her hoodie. "So," Dr. Hawkins said gently, trying to create a bit of ease, "what brings you in today?" Dana cleared her throat. "She's been fainting. Randomly. 3 times in the past week. And she doesn't remember anything when she wakes up." Emma didn't look up. "I'm fine. You passed out in gym class, Em." "That's not fine," Dana said quietly. Dr. Hawkins nodded. "Any headaches? Nausea? Dizziness before it happens?" Emma shrugged. "Sometimes I get this, pressure in my chest. But it goes away." "Pressure?" Hawkins raised an eyebrow. "Where exactly?" Emma touched her stomach, just above her navel. "Right here. But it's not like pain. It's more like something moving." Dr. Hawkins glanced at Dana, whose eyes widened slightly. "Okay," she said carefully, "let's start with some basics. I'll check your vitals, then we'll do a quick ultrasound just to rule out anything serious." Emma looked uneasy. "Do you have to?" "It's just to be safe," Dr. Hawkins assured her. "Totally painless. I promise." Emma hesitated, then gave a tiny nod. Within minutes, she was lying back on the table, hoodie lifted to expose her stomach. Dr. Hawkins squeezed some gel onto her skin and turned on the portable ultrasound machine. As the transducer glided over Emma's abdomen, the doctor's eyes fixed on the monitor. Dana leaned closer. "Is everything okay?" Dr. Hawkins didn't answer right away. The screen showed something unusual, almost like a pocket of fluid, but it was shifting in a way that didn't make sense. Not for a 14-year-old girl with no history of surgery or trauma. She said, trying to stay calm. "Emma, have you had any falls or injuries recently?" "No." "Any surgeries?" "No." Then something happened that made every hair on Dr. Hawkins' arm stand on end. The black and white image on the screen moved. Not just the normal motion of organs or digestion, but a shape. Something rounded. It shifted, almost as if responding to the probe. Emma's eyes flew open. She stared at the monitor and then gasped sharply, jerking away from the transducer. I don't want to do this anymore," she said, sitting up and wiping the gel off with her sleeve. "Emma." "No." Her voice cracked. "He said they'd see it eventually." Dr. Hawkins froze. "What did you say?" But Emma was already off the table. She grabbed her backpack and ran toward the door. Dana looked stunned. "Emma. Wait." The door slammed shut behind her. Dr. Hawkins blinked, still staring at the monitor. The screen had gone dark. A soft static noise crackled through the machine speakers, which shouldn't even be turned on. She tapped a few buttons, but the image wouldn't return. "What the hell," she muttered. She walked to the hallway, where a nurse stood looking confused. "Did you see where she went?" Dr. Hawkins asked. "Out the back," the nurse said. "Didn't even stop to sign out." Back in the exam room, Dana was still there, now holding her daughter's hoodie, left behind in her rush. Something fell out of the front pocket and hit the floor. A small, silver locket. Dr. Hawkins picked it up, her thumb brushing over the strange symbol etched into its surface. It wasn't a heart, or a flower, or anything typical for a teenager. It was geometric, sharp lines intersecting a circle. She'd seen it somewhere before, but couldn't quite place it. "Is everything okay?" Dana asked, voice tight. "I'm not sure," Hawkins said slowly. "But I need to find out." She looked back at the screen. Static flickered. Then, for a split second, just long enough to make her question whether she imagined it, a shape reappeared. A faint outline of something that looked like a hand. Pressing outward. The screen blinked off again. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The sound of gravel crunching beneath her sneakers echoed in the fading daylight as Emma darted down the back alley behind the clinic. Her chest burned, not just from the sprint, but from the pressure that had been building for days. Maybe weeks. It felt like something inside her was pushing against the surface, trying to get out. She didn't stop running until she reached the small wooded trail behind the old community center. It was the only place in town where she could be alone. Hidden. Safe, sort of. Emma dropped to her knees under the familiar weeping willow and curled into herself. Her hands trembled. Her mind raced. He said they'd see it eventually. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. She hadn't meant to remember him at all. Emma didn't talk about the man in the white coat. Not with her mom. Not with Mr. Grant, the school counselor. Not even with Grandpa Jack, who was the only person who ever believed her. It wasn't that she didn't want to. It was that no one else seemed to think he was real. He first came to her in dreams when she was 10. She didn't remember the words, just the feeling, like being submerged underwater but able to breathe. There were lights, faint beeping, and always his voice. Calm. Detached. Cold. "You are not broken, Emma. You are built." But before all that, there had been a normal life. Sort of. Emma's dad had vanished when she was 6. There was no car crash, no funeral. He'd kissed her forehead one morning before work, and never came home. She remembered waiting by the door that night with her bunny backpack on, thinking he'd just run late and they'd still make it to the ice cream shop like he promised. He never showed. And after that, things got strange. Her mom changed. Dana became protective, too protective. She pulled Emma out of first grade for a whole year, claiming she was sick. There were doctor visits in cities Emma didn't know, where men with stiff smiles asked her to lie still and put wires on her head. She didn't remember much from that year. Only flashes. A room with mirrored walls. A tight band around her chest. And the whisper again. "Shoo, Emma. Don't fight it. This is for your own good." Then suddenly, things were normal again. Her mom re-enrolled her in school. They moved to Silver Creek. No one spoke about the past. But Emma remembered. At school, she didn't fit in. The other kids thought she was weird. She spaced out a lot. Sometimes during tests, she'd know the answers before even reading the questions, like they were being downloaded into her brain. She'd get splitting headaches afterward and nosebleeds that freaked out the nurse. She didn't have any real friends, except maybe Isaac, the kid who sat next to her in history and doodled aliens in his notebook. They bonded over their shared belief that something about this world wasn't right. "Maybe we're not from here," he once said, half joking. Emma had smiled at the time. But lately, she wasn't so sure he was wrong. The only person she ever felt safe with was Grandpa Jack, her dad's father. He had lived with them for a few years after her dad disappeared. He had been gentle and patient and never once called her crazy. He told her stories about the Carter family, about how her great-great-grandmother had visions that doctors called seizures, and how her uncle once survived a car accident that should have killed him. He called it the Carter Spark. "You've got it too, Em," he said one night while they sat watching the stars. "But you've got something extra. Something new." "What do you mean?" she asked. He just smiled. "Your dad was working on something before he disappeared. Something about how trauma could unlock parts of the brain that we don't even use. Maybe he was onto something." That was the last real conversation they had. A few weeks later, Grandpa Jack fell down the stairs and hit his head. The doctors called it an accident. Emma wasn't so sure. Now, crouched beneath the willow tree with her arms wrapped around her knees, Emma felt the crushing weight of it all pressing down on her chest. She remembered the look on Dr. Hawkins' face. Confused. Afraid. Just like the others. That image on the ultrasound, Emma had seen it before. In her dreams. A shape, pressing back. Like a mirror, but alive. And then there was the symbol. The one on the locket she'd dropped. She'd found it in her dad's old desk drawer last year. Her mom had screamed when she saw her holding it, then yanked it away and locked it in her closet for months. Emma had picked the lock and stolen it back. She wore it everywhere now. It made her feel connected. To him. To something. She traced the symbol in the dirt with her finger, an open circle surrounded by 6 smaller marks. Like a solar system. Or a target. Or a keyhole. Back at the clinic, Dr. Hawkins couldn't stop staring at the monitor. The image was long gone. But the static remained. She checked the power, fully functional. The machine had never acted like that before. And then there was that phrase. He said they'd see it eventually. Who was he? Hawkins opened Emma's chart again. No medical records before age 10. No pediatrician listed. Immunization records missing. How did that go unnoticed? Then she looked at the emergency contact listed. Jack Carter, deceased. Her eyes narrowed. She'd known Jack. He was a veteran. Honest. Sharp. Said his son had worked for some research division in the city. She picked up the phone and called a friend from med school who now worked in hospital administration in Chicago. "Hey," she said. "Can you look up a name for me?" Dr. Andrew Carter. Neurobiology, maybe genetics. Around 15 years ago. There was a pause. "Rachel," the voice on the line said slowly, "that name's red-flagged in the system. I can't even open the file. It's sealed under federal protection." Hawkins felt a chill creep down her spine. Why would the feds be protecting a dead geneticist? Somewhere, deeper in Emma's chest, the pressure stirred again, like something waking up. Like something that had been waiting. The next morning, Silver Creek Family Clinic opened like it always did, 8 a.m. sharp, the scent of coffee drifting through the reception area, patient files stacked neatly on the counter. But Dr. Jennifer Hawkins couldn't shake the lingering unease in her chest. Emma Carter had vanished. No follow-up. No return call. Her mother, Dana, hadn't answered her phone since storming out with that haunted look on her face. It wasn't unusual for teenagers to be dramatic. It wasn't even that strange for families to skip out when faced with hard questions. But this felt different. And it all came back to what she saw on that screen. The image was burned into her mind. The way the shape shifted. Not fluid like a cyst or tumor, not rigid like bone. It had moved. Reacted. She'd seen her share of anomalies, but that wasn't a medical mystery. That was something else. Something alive. Dr. Hawkins sat at her desk with Emma's incomplete file open in front of her. Date of birth. Basic vitals. No insurance card. The entire intake sheet had been filled out by hand, by Emma's mother, yet even the handwriting looked cautious, almost hesitant. As if she wasn't sure how much truth she was allowed to write down. She flipped through the pages again, eyes catching on something odd. The address listed wasn't in Silver Creek, it was in a rural township nearly 40 miles outside of town. That alone didn't raise too many red flags, but the street name, Laird Hollow Road, triggered a faint bell in Hawkins' memory. Emma Laird. That's what the database said when she ran a name search through the clinic system last night. Not Carter. Laird. She typed the address into the county property database. The parcel was listed under a trust, no clear owner, but the structure on the land was marked as uninhabitable. Yet someone had been living there. Why lie? Meanwhile, Emma sat curled up on the floor of her bedroom, the light from the window casting pale shadows across the carpet. Her mother was downstairs, talking to someone on the phone in hushed tones. Every now and then, she'd hear her name. She hated it when adults whispered about her. "We're not going to the hospital. I told you, she's not sick." That's what Dana had told the nurse after dragging Emma out of the clinic. She'd been shaking the whole ride home, gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. Now Emma stared at her hands. They looked normal. Thin wrists. Chipped blue nail polish. Nothing strange. Except last night, when she reached for the outlet to plug in her phone, a spark jumped from the charger. The light bulb in her lamp flickered and died. It had happened before, but this time felt deliberate. Like it knew. "You are not broken, Emma. You are built." The words came back to her like a ghost. Who had said that? Was it her dad? Her memories of him were fuzzy, just flashes. A deep voice. Strong arms. That strange locket he used to wear. The same one she now kept hidden in her pillowcase because her mom had tried to throw it away again last night. Emma pulled it out and stared at the symbol, circle, 6 marks. Like coordinates. Or maybe a warning. At the clinic, Dr. Hawkins finally picked up her phone and made the call she'd been avoiding. "Hey, Brian. It's Jen. Can I ask a weird question?" Brian Grant, the town's school counselor, chuckled on the other end. "You always ask weird questions. Go ahead." "Emma Carter. She's 14. Do you have anything on her? Files? Notes? Behavior reports?" There was a pause. "Yeah, actually. I've met with her a few times. She's a quiet kid. Super smart, but intense. Spaced out a lot. Some of the teachers thought it might be dissociation or trauma-related." "Why?" "She came in yesterday. Something happened during an ultrasound. I don't know how to explain it." Jen hesitated. "Have you ever heard of her being different? Define different. Like, maybe knowing things before she should. Electrical sensitivity. Memory gaps." Brian cleared his throat. "Okay, I don't know what this is about, but there's a note from her 3rd grade teacher that always stuck with me. Said Emma took apart a school laptop and reassembled it in under an hour, with no tools. And she was 7. That's not normal." "Nope." "And her family?" "Her mom's tough to read. Protective. Never showed up to conferences unless forced. No dad listed on the forms. I remember asking Emma once if she remembered him. She said, he remembers me, even if I don't remember him. Gave me chills." Dr. Hawkins leaned back in her chair, suddenly cold. She remembered Emma's words in the exam room, he said they'd see it eventually. That night, Dr. Hawkins couldn't sleep. She poured herself a glass of wine and pulled out her laptop, lit only by the glow of the desk lamp. She searched for Andrew Carter again. But she didn't stop at hospital records this time. She went deeper. Academic journals. Grant archives. Archived web pages. And finally, a match. Dr. Andrew Carter, Ph.D. in neurogenetics and cognitive engineering. Published papers between 2006 and 2011, then suddenly disappeared from the public record. No obituary. No retirement notice. Just gone. One abstract caught her eye. Integrating synthetic memory coding into developing neural pathways using trauma-triggered stimuli. The key lies in hereditary compatibility. Hereditary compatibility. That meant Emma. The next day, Hawkins took a drive out to the address listed on Emma's form, Laird Hollow Road. The road was mostly gravel, lined with thick woods, and dead quiet. A rusted mailbox marked 27B sat crooked on a post, but the house behind it was clearly abandoned. Or so it seemed. A faint flicker of movement at the upstairs window caught her eye. Someone was inside. Inside the house, Emma watched the car pull up from behind the curtain. She didn't recognize the vehicle at first. Then she saw the woman step out. The doctor. Why was she here? Emma's breath caught. Her mom wasn't home. What if the doctor came to take her away? What if she knew? Then the lights in the hallway flickered. The floor under her vibrated faintly. A pressure behind her eyes began to build. And suddenly, the locket in her hand felt hot, burning hot. Like something inside was waking up. Dr. Jennifer Hawkins stood at the edge of the cracked driveway, staring up at the weathered house like it might blink. The siding was peeling, the roof sloped inward like it had been neglected for years, and the windows were mostly dust-stained and dark. But she knew what she saw, a flicker of movement behind the upstairs curtain. Emma was in there. She wasn't sure what had brought her here, not really. Curiosity, yes. Concern, absolutely. But something else, too, an itch at the back of her mind that said you're standing on the edge of something big. Dangerous big. And for reasons she didn't quite understand, she wasn't walking away. She stepped forward. The wooden porch creaked beneath her feet. She knocked, once, then again. No answer. Just the soft whistle of wind through pine needles. Emma, she called. It's Dr. Hawkins. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk. No response. She hesitated, then tried the door. Unlocked. Emma crouched in the upstairs hallway, her back pressed against the wall as her chest heaved. She hadn't meant to activate anything. She didn't even know what she was activating. The locket pulsed like it was alive, like a tiny heartbeat thrumming against her palm. She could feel the walls around her almost humming in response, as if the very air recognized the signal. The doctor was downstairs now. Emma could hear the soft shuffle of her footsteps, cautious, deliberate. She didn't know whether to run, or call out. Instead, she listened. Dr. Hawkins moved carefully through the house. It smelled of dust and something faintly metallic, like old pennies or the inside of a hospital. She passed through the living room, noting the thick layer of dust on unused furniture, the covered windows, the faint outline of footprints on the floor. Someone was living here. But just barely. She saw the edge of a photo frame on a shelf and reached out to pick it up. It was of a man, early 30s, dark hair, intelligent eyes, a bit of stubble. She recognized him from the academic photo she'd found online. Dr. Andrew Carter. And next to him, a little girl, maybe 5 or 6. A small grin, a stuffed rabbit clutched in one hand. Emma. This was real. He was real. She turned the photo over. Written in faded marker were the words. Laird Hollow is safe. Keep her off the grid. Jen's pulse quickened. She set the photo down and kept moving. Upstairs, Emma swallowed hard and made her decision. She stood, still clutching the locket, and took one slow step toward the landing. Then another. Her socked feet barely made a sound as she moved, but the moment her fingers touched the banister, the lights in the hallway sparked again. A bulb shattered behind her. Downstairs, Dr. Hawkins froze. Emma? Emma stepped into view. Their eyes met. Doctor and patient, no longer separated by titles or clinic walls, but by something bigger. The truth. You shouldn't be here, Emma said quietly. Dr. Hawkins didn't move. I just wanted to check on you. After what happened. Emma looked down at the locket in her hand, then back up. Did you tell anyone? No. Not yet. Emma nodded like she expected that. They're watching. Even if you can't see them. Who is? Emma hesitated. I don't know. Not fully. But my dad did. That's why he disappeared. That word, disappeared, hit Jen hard. She took a slow step up the stairs. Emma, whatever's happening. I want to help. But I can't if I don't understand. You won't find anything, Emma said. There's no file. No records. They erased him. I found his name. I saw his papers. One was about triggering memory with trauma. Emma's hands clenched. He didn't want me to remember. Not all of it. He said it wasn't time. What happened to him? Emma looked past her, toward something distant and invisible. He hid me. Then he ran. They let my mom keep me as long as we stayed off-grid. That's why we moved so much. That's why I was homeschooled for a year. I wasn't sick. They were tracking me. A low hum passed through the air again. Jen felt it in her molars. Emma looked down at the locket. This is the only thing they didn't find. Jen took another step. What is it? I don't know, Emma said. But when I'm scared, it activates. Activates? Like a signal. Suddenly, there was a sharp buzz from Dr. Hawkins' phone. She fumbled it out of her pocket and stared. No service. She blinked. Emma noticed. They're close. Who? Emma didn't get a chance to answer. A low mechanical whir echoed from outside. A vehicle, heavy, slow-moving, like a military SUV, rolled up the road. Emma grabbed Jen's hand. We have to go. Now. If they catch me, I disappear. Like him. They bolted. The back door led to the woods, dense pine and oak trees casting long shadows in the late afternoon sun. Emma led the way with practiced steps, ducking low, weaving through brush. Dr. Hawkins tried to keep up, her heart pounding in her ears. Behind them, voices echoed through the house, sharp, clipped commands. Doors opening. Glass breaking. They knew I came here, Jen said breathlessly. They know everything, Emma replied. That's why he wiped my memories. He thought if I didn't know, I'd be safe. And the locket? Emma paused at the edge of a steep hill, her breath coming fast. He told me to use it if I ever felt alone. That it would lead me somewhere safe. Where? Emma opened the locket. Inside wasn't a photo. It was a microchip, etched with the same symbol on the outside. But now, it glowed faintly blue. She held it out. The chip pulsed. Once. Then again. And suddenly, behind the trees, a hidden metal panel, previously indistinguishable from the hillside, slid open. Dr. Hawkins stared. What the hell? Emma smiled weakly. I think, this is where he wanted me to go. They ducked inside. The door closed behind them. Darkness. Then lights flickered on, fluorescent, cold. A long corridor stretched out in front of them. A hum of machines deeper within. Emma took a step forward. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel afraid. She felt like she was finally heading home. The corridor stretched endlessly in front of them, its metallic walls humming softly with electricity. Cool blue lights pulsed rhythmically along the edges of the floor, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and coil like they were alive. Dr. Jennifer Hawkins followed close behind Emma, who walked ahead with the glowing locket still clutched in her hand like a compass. Her steps were uncertain but focused, like something deep inside her had taken control, guiding her toward a place she didn't fully understand but somehow recognized. "This is a lab," Jen whispered, eyes sweeping over the seamless steel walls and embedded lights. "Underground. Who built this?" Emma didn't answer. She just kept walking, the chip in the locket glowing brighter with each step. Finally, they reached a door. Unlike the rest of the corridor, this one had no handle. Just a black panel beside it. Emma stepped forward and instinctively raised the locket. The moment the chip neared the panel, it lit up. The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was a room that felt like it had been frozen in time. Old computer monitors lined one wall, flickering with dim startup screens. Charts and diagrams covered a bulletin board, yellowed at the edges, covered in dust. A map of human neural pathways, genetic code schematics, and something else, a rough sketch of the same symbol on Emma's locket, surrounded by handwritten notes. Emma walked straight to the desk in the middle of the room and froze. There, sitting in a locked glass case, was a photo. Her father. Standing in this very room. Holding her, just a toddler then, in his arms. A warmth in his eyes she hadn't seen in years. She touched the glass. "I've been here before," she whispered. "I don't remember how. But I know this place." Dar. Hawkins approached slowly, eyes flicking between the photos, documents, and machinery. "This wasn't just a lab," she said. "This was a prototype station. For something bigger. Government, maybe. Or private military. But off the books." Emma nodded, distracted. "My dad called it the bridge. He said it was the space between what we are, and what we could be." Jen frowned. The space between. Between human and something more. They explored the lab in silence. There was a chamber in the back, round, sterile, with a reclining chair in the center and a device suspended above it like a robotic spider. The walls were covered in biometric sensors and screens now dark with disuse. Emma stood just outside the threshold, arms wrapped tightly around herself. "I think, this is where he did it," she said. "Did what?" "Changed me." Jen's voice softened. "Emma, no one changed you. You're still." "No, I'm not," she cut in. "Not completely. He said he only unlocked what was already there. But I don't think even he knew what it would become." She turned to the doctor, eyes shining but calm. "I feel things before they happen. Machines turn off when I get scared. I don't forget information, I absorb it. Like code." Dr. Hawkins felt the weight of her words settle in the sterile air. "You're not describing illness. You're describing evolution." Emma flinched. He called it that too. Suddenly, one of the old monitors sparked to life. Both of them jumped. The screen buzzed, flickered, and then, static. Followed by a flickering image. A man's face. Grainy and pixelated, but recognizable. "Dad," Emma breathed. Dr. Hawkins stepped forward. "Is this a live feed?" "No," Emma said. "It's a pre-recorded trigger." The man on screen, Dr. Andrew Carter, looked exhausted. Pale. But his eyes burned with urgency. "If you're seeing this," he began, "then you activated the signal. And if that's true, they're already close." Emma reached out, resting her hand gently on the screen. "You were never supposed to find this until it was safe," he continued. "But if you're here, then I failed. I didn't keep them away. I'm sorry, baby girl." He paused, as if gathering himself. They said you were a threat. That you had to be contained. But they were wrong. You're not the danger. You're the cure. Dr. Hawkins blinked. Cure for what? The recording continued, as if answering her. Our species is breaking. Genetically. Intellectually. Emotionally. We're hitting a wall. I saw it coming. So I tried to engineer a way through it, not by changing who we are, but by activating what's dormant. Abilities we evolved away from. I used trauma triggers, neural coding, and hereditary pathways. He looked directly into the camera now. And Emma, it worked. You were the first. The screen glitched, then went black. Silence filled the room like water rising in a tank. Emma slowly sank into a nearby chair, face blank, voice hollow. He made me for something. I'm not just a kid. I'm a test. No, Jen said quickly, firmly. He didn't make you. You're not a lab rat. You're his daughter. And whatever he did it because he believed in you. Emma's hands trembled. I don't know what they want from me, she whispered. They want to control what they don't understand, Jen said. But you don't have to let them. Emma looked up, eyes watery. What do I do? Jen took a breath. We fight back. We find out who's behind this. We expose them. Emma nodded slowly, then stood, eyes scanning the room again. She opened a drawer beneath the computer station and found a tablet. It was still functional. A list of encrypted files appeared on the screen. One stood out. EM-01, Final Protocol. Outside the lab, above ground, two black SUVs rolled to a silent stop in the woods where the house used to stand. Men in dark uniforms stepped out. No names. No badges. Just headsets and rifles. One of them raised a scanner. It beeped rapidly, picking up a faint energy signature, then spiked. They activated the site, he said. The lead agent gave a sharp nod. Seal the perimeter. No one leaves the hollow. Deep inside the lab, Emma and Dr. Hawkins stared at the screen. The file blinked once. Do you wish to initiate? Emma's finger hovered over the screen. She didn't feel like a child anymore. She didn't even feel afraid. She felt awake. Yes, she whispered. And pressed enter. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The moment Emma pressed enter, the lab came alive. Lights embedded in the ceiling strobed once, twice, then settled into a steady white glow. Machinery that had lain dormant for over a decade roared back to life. A low mechanical hum vibrated through the walls like a heartbeat reawakening. On the screen, the words changed. Initiating Protocol EM-01, Neural Recall and Synthetic Expansion. Status, active. Subject identified, Emma Carter, EM-01. Dr. Hawkins stepped back instinctively, eyes wide. This was all programmed into the system, waiting for her. Emma didn't move. Her hands clenched at her sides, her breathing rapid but controlled. Her eyes, though, her eyes were locked on the screen, focused. Clear. She wasn't scared. She was ready. A robotic voice filled the lab, calm and non-human. Subject EM-01, place biometric tag in chamber interface. Emma pulled the locket from around her neck. The chip inside glowed steadily, now pulsing in rhythm with the lights on the walls. She crossed the room to the central chamber, the one with the reclined chair and sealing device, and placed the locket into a small slot on the console. A tone sounded. The chair adjusted, lowering slightly. A harness unfolded from the sides. Emma turned to Dr. Hawkins. This is what he built it for. It's a memory interface. Not just data, it's experience. I think he stored something in me. You're saying your father uploaded, what, code? Memories? Directly into your brain? Emma nodded. Locked away until I was ready. Until I chose. Emma, this could hurt you. I don't think it will. I think it'll show me who I am. The machine chimed again. It was waiting. Emma climbed into the chair. Outside, in the dense woods above the lab, the agents fanned out in a silent formation. Perimeter secure, one muttered into his comm, no movement at surface level. The lead agent, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing matte black gear and dark gloves, approached what had once been the house. Now just an empty clearing. He tapped the air on a small wrist-mounted screen, and a digital layout projected in front of him, a schematic of the underground structure. Target is below, he said. Layer 4. Subcore lab. The man beside him hesitated. Sir, what if she's fully awakened? The lead agent's mouth was a hard line. Then we terminate the sequence. And the subject. Inside the lab, the machine above Emma's chair began to descend. Dr. Hawkins watched helplessly from the side, heart pounding. She didn't know what would happen when the machine activated. The wiring was old, the medical theory was decades ahead of anything she'd studied, and yet something in Emma's expression made her pause. The girl wasn't panicking. She was glowing. The light from the overhead device spilled down across Emma's forehead as small sensory pads lowered and made contact with her temples. She flinched, but held still. Then the lights pulsed again, and she was gone. Emma's mind shattered. Or, no, not shattered. Split. She was still aware of the lab, the chair, Dr. Hawkins nearby, but she was also somewhere else. In a space that felt infinite. Blackness all around her, dotted with swirling blue threads, like constellations. Then she heard his voice. Emma. If you're hearing this, then you chose to remember. Her father's voice echoed through the void, not like a recording this time, but present. Real. I did everything I could to protect you. But they never wanted protection. They wanted power. They wanted to weaponize what was inside you. Images flashed in front of her, rapid scenes. Her as a toddler, laughing in her father's arms. A lab full of screens and codes, flashing symbols. Men in dark suits arguing with her father. Her mother crying, holding her tightly. A file labeled EM-01 being deleted from a military database. You are not an experiment, the voice continued. You are the next step in what we were meant to become. We didn't evolve to destroy. We evolved to connect. That's your power. The space shifted, showing her moments she didn't know she remembered. A classroom where she stopped a falling globe with her mind. A night when her mother collapsed in fear, and Emma's presence made her heart stabilize. A boy in school having a seizure, and Emma reaching out, and stopping it. You were born with the spark, Emma. I just lit the fuse. And then, suddenly, a final message, one that hit like lightning. They're coming for you. But you're not alone. You never were. Back in the lab, Emma's eyes flew open. But they were different now, glowing faintly, like lit from within. The machine above her powered down. Dr. Hawkins rushed to her side. Emma? Are you okay? Emma sat up slowly. Her voice was steady. I saw him. He showed me everything. You mean, you remember? More than that, Emma said. I know now. What I am. Why I was hidden. Why he disappeared. She turned to face Dr. Hawkins. They're afraid of me. But they don't understand, I don't want to hurt anyone. Jen stepped back. What do you want? Emma stood fully, shoulders squared. I want the truth. For everyone. I want them to stop hiding what they did. And I want to make sure no other kid gets treated like a secret again. The lab's lights flickered. Then a rumble above. Dr. Hawkins's phone buzzed with a scrambled emergency signal, unauthorized entry, hollow perimeter breach. "They're here," Jen whispered. Emma didn't flinch. "Then let's show them what they're so afraid of." Above ground, the agents moved toward the concealed entrance. The lead agent raised his hand and gave the command. "Open it." One of the techs connected a device to the hillside panel and began hacking the door lock. Sparks shot from the panel, then a low clunk echoed as the mechanism began to slide open. But before they could move, a blinding pulse of blue-white light erupted from the forest floor. The agents staggered, covering their eyes. When the light faded, standing in the entrance was a girl. Small. Calm. Her hair blown gently by unseen wind. Eyes glowing like stars. "Emma Carter," the lead agent growled. "You're coming with us." Emma tilted her head. "No," she said simply. "I'm not." And then, without touching a thing, every weapon in their hands dropped to the ground, disabled. The comms crackled and went dead. Behind her, Dr. Hawkins appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with disbelief. Emma didn't run. She stepped forward. And the men backed away. Because for the first time in her life, Emma wasn't hiding anymore. The forest fell into an eerie silence as the armed men lowered their weapons, their grip slackened not by choice, but by force. Emma's force. She stood in the clearing, shoulders steady, glowing eyes slowly dimming as the energy around her dissipated. Her breathing was calm, her stance unwavering, but something in her expression had changed. She wasn't just reacting anymore. She was leading. Behind her, Dr. Hawkins watched in awe, her pulse racing. Nothing in medical school had prepared her for this. Not the science, not the ethics, and certainly not the weight of standing beside a teenager who just disarmed an elite strike team with a flicker of her mind. "Emma," Jen said quietly. "What now?" Before she could answer, a voice cut through the trees. Slow. Calm. Confident. "Hold your fire. She's not the threat. She's the solution." From behind the agents, a man emerged, gray suit, no tie, silver hair perfectly parted. He looked like someone who belonged in a Senate hearing, not a forest standoff. His smile was sharp but polite, and his eyes never left Emma. The men around him stepped back slightly, almost deferential. Emma narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" "I've gone by many names in operations," he said. "But for now, call me Mr. Langston. I'm not here to hurt you, Emma. In fact, I'm here to offer you a choice." Dr. Hawkins stepped forward. "What kind of choice?" Langston's eyes flicked to her briefly, then back to Emma. "The kind that changes history." He gestured to a folding table set up near one of the SUVs. "No weapons. No cuffs. Just a single black case, and a tablet. If we wanted to take you, Emma," he said, "we would have stormed that lab without warning. But we didn't. We waited. We watched. And now we know." "Know what?" Emma asked flatly. "That you're awake." He opened the case, revealing several files, photos, maps, redacted documents. Emma stepped closer cautiously, eyeing the images. One was a blurry security cam photo of her in the clinic. Another was a heat scan from the forest. Another was a childhood photo of her and her father, one she'd never seen before. "You've been watching me for years," she said, voice low. Langston didn't deny it. "Since the EM project was terminated." Emma turned to Dr. Hawkins. "He means the project where I was created." "You weren't created," Jen replied quickly. "You were born. That distinction matters." Langston smiled, as if the line amused him. "I understand your anger," he said. "Truly. But your father was a visionary. Misguided, yes. Paranoid, maybe. But brilliant. And now, his work lives in you. Don't waste it. Emma folded her arms. What do you want from me? To help you. Train you. Protect you. The world isn't ready for what you can do, but we are. You can do incredible things, Emma, but only if you're supported by people who know what to do with power. Supported, she echoed bitterly. Or controlled. Langston's eyes hardened. It's not about control. It's about direction. Focus. Legacy. You think hiding in the woods will change the world? No. But standing beside us might. Dr. Hawkins stepped between them. Emma doesn't owe you anything. She's a kid. She deserves a life. Not a leash. Langston gave her a pitying glance. Doctor, you saw what she did. You know what she's capable of. How long before the rest of the world sees it? How long before someone else tries to use her for their agenda? At least with us, she'll be among people who understand her. Emma was silent. She looked at the photos again. Her father's face stared back at her, frozen in time. And suddenly, she felt the pull. Not from Langston. Not from fear. But from the possibility of belonging. She had power. They had answers. Was it worth the risk? What would happen to me, she asked softly. If I went with you? Langston didn't blink. You'd be trained. Protected. Your abilities studied, but not exploited. You'd have access to everything your father built. Everything he never finished. You'd be the first of something new. And if I don't go with you? His smile vanished. Then we can't guarantee your safety. Silence fell again. Emma looked at Dr. Hawkins, whose face showed only quiet support, not pressure. Not fear. Just trust. Then she looked at the agents, all still waiting for orders, gripping weapons that no longer responded to them. Finally, she turned to Langston. You made a mistake, she said calmly. Oh. You think I'm afraid of being different? That I need you. But I don't. My dad didn't run from people like you because he was weak. He ran because you're small. Langston's brow furrowed. Small, he repeated. Emma nodded. You think power is about control. But it's not. It's about purpose. And then, before anyone could react, Emma raised one hand. The tablet on the table lifted into the air, hovered, then shattered midair with a sharp pop, pieces scattering across the table. Langston flinched, barely. Emma stepped back toward the woods. I'm not for sale, she said. And I'm not your weapon. Then she turned to Jen. Let's go. Dr. Hawkins exhaled, heart pounding, and followed. They walked in silence through the forest until the trees swallowed the clearing behind them. When they reached the edge of the lab's hidden trail, Emma finally stopped. Do you think I made the right call? She asked. Dr. Hawkins nodded slowly. You made the only call that let you stay human. Emma smiled faintly. I don't feel fully human anymore. That doesn't mean you aren't. Being human isn't just blood and bones. It's choices. Courage. Compassion. You've shown all three. Emma looked up at the sky through the trees. It was getting dark. But for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel lost in the night. She felt like she was stepping into it on her own terms. Back in the clearing, Langston stared at the destroyed tablet. His agents stood frozen. One stepped forward. Sir, do we pursue? Langston watched the direction Emma disappeared into for a long moment. Then shook his head. No, he said. Let her go. Another agent blinked. But, why? Langston gave a slow smile. Because now we know the protocol works. And Emma? He turned to the photos, then to the shattered tablet. She's just the beginning. They traveled for hours after leaving the forest. Dr. Hawkins drove an old pickup truck she found abandoned near the service trail, its tank still half full and the keys stuffed above the visor. It was a lucky break, one that shouldn't have happened but did, like fate wasn't quite ready to throw in the towel. Emma sat in the passenger seat, quiet. She watched the trees roll by, one hand wrapped around the locket again, her anchor, her trigger, her mystery. It didn't glow anymore, but it hummed softly, almost like it was sleeping. Neither of them spoke until they hit the edge of a small, nameless town, just a scattering of gas stations, motels, and forgotten shops. The kind of place that lived in between destinations. The kind of place no one would expect to find someone like her. Dr. Hawkins parked behind a diner with flickering neon and turned off the engine. "You hungry?" she asked, her voice tentative. Emma gave her a small smile. "I could eat a planet." That broke the tension. They laughed, not because anything was funny, but because it felt human, and that was enough. Inside the diner, they picked a booth near the back and ordered pancakes and eggs. The waitress didn't bat an eye at the fact that Emma's shoes were dirty and Jen's shirt was torn at the sleeve. People in small towns had seen enough weirdness to keep their mouths shut. They ate in silence for a few minutes until Emma finally spoke. "There are more of me." Dr. Hawkins looked up. "What do you mean?" Emma wiped her mouth, then pulled a small flash drive from her jacket pocket, the one she'd taken from the lab before they fled. "My dad didn't just create one profile. He created 7. Jen's stomach twisted. 7. Emma nodded. 7 experiments. 7 kids. EM01 through EM07. I was the first. She placed the drive on the table like it was a bomb. I found encrypted files in the system before we left. Names. Birth dates. Code names. Were the others successful? Emma hesitated. I don't know. But they're out there. Jen sat back, processing. Then we need to find them. Before Langston does. Emma looked her straight in the eyes. What if I'm not the strongest one? Then we hope they're better people than the ones chasing you. Later that night, in a room above the diner, Emma connected the flash drive to the burner laptop Jen had purchased from a trucker who didn't ask questions. The files were deeply buried, some corrupted, others protected by passwords Emma bypassed with unsettling ease. It was like her brain knew the backdoor, like the system was familiar on an instinctive level. There they were. EM02, NOAA, Psychogenic Auditory Manipulation. EM03, Lena, Bioelectric Adaptation. EM04, Chi, Molecular Heat Distortion. EM05, Ivy, Atmospheric Resonance. EM06, Mira, Neural Duplication. EM07, Gray, Unknown. Emma stared at the names, her pulse rising. She whispered them under her breath, like old spells. Noah. Lena. Kai. Ivy. Mira. Gray. She didn't know their faces. Didn't know if they were alive. But something deep inside told her. They were awake now too. Dr. Hawkins stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Your father didn't mention them in the video message. He didn't want me to know, Emma said. Maybe he thought if I knew I wasn't alone, I'd go looking. And that would be dangerous. Jen stepped forward. It's dangerous now. But it's also the only way forward. You said it yourself, Langston thinks you're just the start. He'll go after the others if he hasn't already. Emma turned the laptop around and pointed to the bottom of the file index. There, beneath all the profiles, was a single line. Project Hollow, Site Echo, Decommissioned, Status, Unverified. A second site? Jen asked. Emma nodded. My guess. That's where they kept the others. Or trained them. Or buried them. Emma's face darkened. Then we find out. By morning, they had a plan. Using an old-school map, radio towers, and fragments of geodata from the flash drive, they traced the coordinates for Site Echo to a stretch of mountainous terrain 3 states over. Remote. Heavily wooded. Not on any civilian grid. They'd have to move quietly, and fast. But first, Emma needed answers of a different kind. She stood in front of a payphone, quarters clutched in one hand, the number memorized from her old life. She dialed. The phone rang twice. Then her mom answered. Hello. Emma froze. Her mother's voice was fragile. Like a bird's wing held together with hope and grief. Mom, she said quietly. Silence. Then the gasp. Emma. Oh my God. Baby, where, are you okay? Are you safe? I'm okay. I can't tell you where I am. But I'm not alone. Are you with, did someone take you? Emma hesitated. No. I left. Because I had to. There are people trying to find me, but I'm safe for now. And I'm not sick, Mom. I never was. I know, her mother whispered. I knew. I didn't know how to stop it. They told me if I ever asked questions, they'd take you. Tears ran down Emma's face. I miss you, she said. I miss you too. A pause. Promise me something, her mother asked. Anything. Don't let them turn you into something you're not. Emma nodded. I promise. Then she hung up. Back in the truck, she stared out the window as the road wound into higher ground. Jen glanced at her. You okay? No, Emma said honestly. But I will be. She opened the locket again. This time, instead of glowing, it simply reflected the sunlight pouring in through the windshield. Quiet. Still. Like it was finally at peace. We're going to find them, she said. The others. And when we do, we're not running anymore. Jen reached over and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. Then we'd better get moving. The world's about to get a lot bigger. Somewhere deep in the mountains, beneath layers of rock and wire, a blinking light on a long-dormant terminal turned green. It had detected a match. M01, active. M02, sleeping. M03, unknown. M04, unknown. M05, terminated. M06, active. M07, error. The system waited. Then a robotic voice crackled to life. Site Echo. Reboot in progress. The mountain air was crisp and thin, biting through the worn layers of Emma's jacket as she and Dr. Hawkins climbed steadily along the narrow trail. Their footsteps crunched softly on the gravel, drowned out by the steady hum of distant machinery, an ominous reminder that they were closing in on Site Echo. Emma's heart raced, but this time it wasn't fear. It was determination. This place feels wrong, Jen whispered, glancing around at the thick pines surrounding them. Emma nodded. Like a wound nobody wanted to heal. They reached a clearing where the forest abruptly gave way to a concrete structure half buried in the earth, old, gray, and covered in moss. The faint flicker of security lights cast eerie shadows across rusted pipes and cracked windows. A large metal door marked Site Echo, authorized personnel only, stood before them, sealed tight. Jen pulled a compact toolkit from her backpack, expertly removing the security panel. Her fingers moved quickly but carefully, bypassing the system with the same practiced skill that had saved them more than once. Done, she said after a tense moment. The door hissed open, revealing a long, dimly lit hallway lined with closed chambers. Emma's breath caught. "This must be where the others are," she said. Jen glanced at a terminal nearby. "Looks like the power is barely holding. We'll have to be quick." They moved cautiously through the corridor, scanning the chambers through the thick glass. Most held nothing but dust and decayed equipment, remnants of a long-abandoned program. But a few chambers contained something else. Human silhouettes, motionless, as if frozen in time. Emma's fingers twitched with a mixture of hope and dread. She pressed her palm against the glass of one chamber. Inside, a teenage boy with dark hair lay still, hooked to machines that beeped weakly. A faded tag hung around his neck, EM02, Noah. Jen checked the monitor beside the chamber. "He's alive, but in stasis. Vital signs are weak." Emma's voice barely a whisper, "Noah." A sudden hiss echoed through the hallway as the system activated. Warning lights flashed red, and the intercom crackled to life. "Unauthorized access detected. Initiating lockdown." The door behind them slammed shut. Jen's eyes widened. "We've got maybe 5 minutes before this place seals us in." Emma scanned the terminal and began typing rapidly. The interface was archaic but familiar. Why would they leave this place running if it was decommissioned? Jen asked. Emma shook her head. "Maybe someone was waiting for us." The alarm blared as they rushed down the hallway, unlocking several chambers along the way. They found another girl, pale, with electric blue hair and glowing veins tracing patterns across her skin. EM03, Emma read aloud. "Lena. Bioelectric adaptation." Lena's eyes fluttered open, confusion and fear flooding her gaze. Emma crouched beside her. "You're safe now. We're here to help." Lena struggled to speak. Why am I here?" "You were part of a project," Emma explained gently. "You're not alone anymore." They kept moving, releasing one sleeper after another. A boy with fiery eyes and heat rippling off his skin, Kai. A girl who seemed to shimmer like the air itself, Ivy. A woman, older than the rest, with calm but haunted eyes, Mira. Each awakened slowly, groggy and disoriented, but alive. When they reached the last chamber, the label was nearly worn away, EM07, Gray. Jen pried open the door, revealing nothing but an empty room. Emma's heart sank. "No Gray," she said softly. Jen's voice was grim. "Whatever happened here, it wasn't good." The lights flickered as the lockdown alarm continued. Emma gathered the awakened ones in a small conference room. "Listen," she said, voice steady. "We don't know what happened to Gray, but we're all here now. Together." Noah sat beside her, voice hoarse. "What do we do next?" "We get answers," Emma said. Jen nodded. "And fast. Whoever's still watching might not like that." Suddenly, the overhead speakers crackled again. "Emma. Welcome back." A new voice, calm, composed, but with an edge that sent chills down their spines. "Langston." Emma's fists clenched. "So you found us," he said. "I hoped you would. I've been waiting." "Why are you doing this?" Noah demanded. "Why create us like this?" Langston's tone was almost patient. "Because you're the future. The next evolution. But evolution requires guidance." Emma stepped forward. "We're not your puppets." "Perhaps not. Yet." A loud blast shook the building. The power dipped. "Security breach detected. Evacuate immediately," the intercom warned. Jen grabbed Emma's arm. "We need to move. Now." They sprinted through corridors as alarms blared and automated turrets activated. Noah's powers flared, shielding them from a burst of energy. Lena's electric pulses disabled cameras and sensors. Kai ignited a path through collapsing debris. Ivy's shimmering form allowed them to phase through locked doors. Mira stayed calm, guiding them with strategy and support. Together, they made it outside just as the facility began to self-destruct behind them. Breathless, Emma turned to the group. "We survived this. But Langston won't stop." Jen nodded. "We need to find out who he really works for." Emma looked at her new family, awkward, powerful, broken, but united. "We fight together," she said. "For ourselves. For the future." Noah smiled weakly. "Then let's get started." The forest swallowed their retreating figures. But far away, Langston's voice echoed into a secure line. "Prepare for Phase 2. Project Hollow will be complete." The forest around them was thick, alive with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. But Emma's mind was anything but calm. Every step forward felt like stepping deeper into a web, tangled and full of shadows. Jen led the way, scanning the horizon with her tactical eyes, while Noah and Lena flanked Emma, alert and ready. Kai and Ivy stayed close behind, energy barely contained, and Mira kept watch at the rear, her quiet presence a steady anchor. "We can't just run forever," Emma said finally, breaking the silence. "Langston's right about one thing, this is about control. But it's not just his project anymore. Someone bigger is pulling the strings." Jen nodded grimly. "I hacked into some satellite feeds last night. There's a private security firm linked to the government, but also to unknown corporations. They have agents everywhere." Emma swallowed hard. "They want to weaponize us. Us. People like me." Lena's voice was sharp. "That's why we need to disappear. Find a safe place." "But where?" Kai asked, frustration thick in his voice. "They're hunting us across 3 states." They pressed on, guided by an old radio signal that Jen had detected earlier, a faint broadcast from a remote resistance group called the Free Minds. Rumor had it they sheltered people who had escaped experiments like Project Hollow. Hours later, under the cover of twilight, they arrived at a hidden compound nestled in a valley surrounded by jagged cliffs. The gates opened silently to reveal a cluster of rugged buildings and a small community of wary faces. An older man with steel-gray hair stepped forward. His eyes scanned Emma's group and settled on her. "You're the girl from the clinic," he said. "Emma. We've been expecting you." Inside the main hall, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. The Free Minds were a mix of survivors, hackers, and former insiders, each carrying their own scars from battles fought in secret. Emma's voice echoed through the room as she shared their story. Langston. The experiments. The awakening. The room was silent but for the crackling of a fireplace. Then a woman stood up. "My name's Mara," she said, voice steady. "I was part of the first wave. We thought we could change the world. Instead, we almost lost it." Jen leaned forward. "How did you escape?" Mara's eyes darkened. "We fought back. Sabotaged the labs. Hid from those who hunted us." Emma's heart pounded. "We need to do the same. But we don't know who to trust." Mara nodded. "That's why you're here. We've been tracking Langston and his backers. There's a mole within the resistance." Gasps rippled through the room. Jen's eyes narrowed. "A traitor?" "Someone feeding him information," Mara confirmed. "Someone close." Emma's thoughts raced. How deep did this go? Could anyone be trusted? Her fingers clenched the locket, cold and heavy in her palm. "Then we need to find the mole," she said. "Before it's too late." Mara nodded approvingly. "You'll have allies here, but the enemy is everywhere. We move at night. Shadows are our cover." That night, Emma sat alone beneath the stars, the weight of leadership settling on her shoulders. Noah joined her, breaking the silence. "You're not alone in this," he said quietly. Emma looked up. "I know. But sometimes I wonder if being different means always being hunted." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. But it also means we can change things no one else can." She smiled back, a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. Days passed in a blur of planning and training. Emma and her team learned to control their abilities, using them not just to survive, but to fight back. Ivy's atmospheric resonance disrupted surveillance drones, while Kai's heat distortion created cover during escapes. Myra's neural duplication allowed her to gather intelligence by creating shadow copies of herself. Noah's auditory manipulation disoriented their enemies, buying precious seconds. And Lena's bioelectric pulses disabled weapons with a touch. Jen coordinated with Mara, turning the compound into a fortress of resistance. But the mole remained a ghost. Every plan they made leaked out, every movement anticipated. Emma's frustration grew. One evening, as rain hammered against the windows, a breach alarm shattered the quiet. They scrambled into defensive positions. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in black. "Stop!" Emma commanded. The figure pulled back a hood, revealing a familiar face. It was Mira. "I'm sorry," Mira said, voice trembling. "They made me. I didn't want to betray you." Emma's heart shattered. "How could you?" she whispered. Myra's eyes filled with tears. "They threatened my family. They have leverage. I was a prisoner too." Jen stepped forward, her voice cold but calm. "We're not here to punish you. But you have to help us stop them." Mira nodded slowly. "I want to make it right." Together, they devised a risky plan, to infiltrate the corporation's data center and expose their operations to the world. Emma's pulse raced as they prepared. "This is it," she said. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone they've hurt." Noah grinned. "Let's bring the shadows into the light." As dawn broke, the team slipped into the city under cover of darkness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Emma's heart beat steady, her resolve unwavering. This was their fight. Their truth. And they would not back down. The city skyline glistened under the moonlight as Emma and her team approached the towering headquarters of Solis Corp, the mysterious corporation at the center of the conspiracy. Its glass walls gleamed like a fortress, the symbol of control and secrecy. Jen checked her equipment one last time. "Security is tighter than we thought. Multiple layers of encryption, guards on patrol, and automated defenses. But I have a backdoor we can exploit." Emma took a deep breath. "We've come this far. No turning back now." They slipped through the shadows, each step measured and silent. Myra's neural duplicates floated ahead, scouting the hallways, their ghost-like forms slipping through walls and cameras. The team moved like ghosts themselves, Noah manipulating sounds to cloak their movements, Lena pulsing electric bursts to disable alarms, Kai generating heat waves to confuse infrared sensors, Ivy shimmering to phase through barriers. Emma's heart pounded, but she kept her focus sharp. "This way," Jen whispered, guiding them to the core of the building. The data center was a vault of humming servers and blinking lights, a digital nerve center where secrets were stored and power was controlled. Jen plugged in her device and fingers danced across the keyboard. Almost there, just bypassing firewall layers. Suddenly, the screens flickered. "Access granted," Jen said softly. But then alarms blared. They'd been detected. The doors slammed shut behind them. Footsteps echoed rapidly. Emma pulled her team into a defensive formation. Gunmetal-clad security guards stormed the room. "No time to lose," Jen hissed. Emma nodded. "Use your abilities. We fight." The battle was fierce. Noah unleashed auditory blasts that disoriented the guards. Lena zapped electrical surges, frying weapons and controls. Kai ignited bursts of heat that forced enemies back. Ivy phased through attackers, disabling them from behind. Mira created duplicates that confused the opposition. Emma fought with determination, dodging strikes and protecting Jen as she continued her hack. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, Jen shouted, "Data download complete." Emma grabbed the drive. Time to go. They broke through the rear exit, sprinting into the night as alarms blared behind them. Safe for the moment, they gathered around the flickering glow of a portable screen. The data revealed a chilling truth. Solis Corp wasn't just experimenting on children like Emma and the others. They had global reach, cloning, genetic manipulation, weaponizing abilities for military contracts. And worst of all, their CEO was someone Emma knew. A face she'd seen before. Her own father. "Dad?" Emma whispered, disbelief and betrayal crashing over her. Jen placed a hand on her shoulder. "He's been hiding more than you thought." Emma's hands trembled. "Why? Why would he do this to us?" Myra's voice was quiet but firm. "Because he believed the ends justified the means. That creating perfect humans would save the world." Noah shook his head. "But at what cost?" Emma stared at the screen, the weight of her past and future colliding. She realized that the fight wasn't just against Langston or Solis Corp, but against the legacy her own bloodline had left behind. "This isn't just about survival anymore," she said. "It's about stopping them from hurting anyone else." Jen nodded. "We have the evidence to bring them down." Emma looked at her team, her family. "We're ready." The screen flickered again. A message appeared. "Emma, this is only the beginning. You can run, but you can't hide from what you were made to be." Emma clenched her fists. "We won't run. We'll fight." The first light of dawn spilled over the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. Emma stood on the rooftop of the Resistance compound, the cool breeze tugging at her hair. The weight of the past weeks, the betrayals, the battles, the painful truths, pressed heavily on her shoulders, yet within her burned a fierce determination. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for everyone who had been silenced, experimented on, or forgotten. Beside her, Jen adjusted the radio, ready to send their final broadcast. "Are you sure about this?" Jen asked, her voice low but steady. Emma nodded. "They deserve to know. The world needs to see what's been hidden." Inside the compound, the team gathered, faces worn but resolute. Noah, Lena, Kai, Ivy, and Mira, the family she'd chosen, stood united, each carrying the scars of their journey but also the hope of a new beginning. Mira stepped forward. "This isn't just about exposing Solis Corp or Langston. It's about reclaiming our lives. We have the power to change the story." Noah smiled softly. "Together, we're unstoppable." Emma's eyes scanned the group. "It's time." Jen keyed in the transmission. The message they broadcast was raw and unfiltered, a testimony of truth from those who had lived it. Emma spoke clearly, her voice unwavering. "We are not mistakes. We are not weapons. We are people. And this is our story." Images of the facility, the experiments, the hidden chambers flickered on screens worldwide. Names were spoken, victims, survivors, heroes. The world watched. In the days that followed, public outcry erupted. Protests surged, governments launched investigations, and Solis Corp's leadership crumbled under the weight of evidence. Emma's father was arrested, his empire dismantled piece by piece. But amidst the chaos, Emma found something unexpected. Peace. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Emma sat with her mother on the porch of their new home. A modest place far from the shadows of the past. Her mother reached for Emma's hand. "You've grown into someone I'm proud of." Emma smiled, tears glistening. "It wasn't easy. But I had to fight, not just for me, but for all of us. Her mother nodded. Life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. Back at the compound, the team prepared for what came next. They weren't just survivors, they were leaders, advocates, and a symbol of hope. Emma looked at each of them, gratitude swelling in her chest. We started as broken pieces, she said. But together, we're whole. Kai grinned. Ready for whatever comes next. Emma laughed. Bring it on. As night settled, Emma stood once more beneath the stars, the world vast and full of promise. Her journey had been painful, uncertain, and wild. But it had also been hers. And now, she was ready to write the next chapter. Life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?